going to bring us on to black here. Black commons. First one up, Snarling Gorehound. Single black mana for a 1/1. It's got Menace. And whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you surveil 1.
Yeah, so Peck's in, like 1/1 Menace we saw be pretty good in Lord of the Rings as long as it had a relevant ability. And this might count. Like,
Yeah,
I have a tough time with this one. I think
me
it
too.
might be okay.
Yeah, they're really. I kind of almost feel like they're pulling a fast one on us with this set because so many of the 1-drops we've looked at, we've been like, like usually we're pretty hyped about them, and we're actually gonna
Yeah.
see a few more that I'm kind of iffy on. So maybe this is like a set specific thing or the turn of a new design philosophy. But yeah, I'm not just immediately like, yeah, great card on this one.
It's hard to sometimes measure what the impact is of surveilling one every turn. Like it's better than it sounds,
Mm-hmm.
but still not thrilled about this.
Yeah, so let's just say you are a black-white deck. Most of your creatures have 2 power. You're like I said, surveilling every turn or so. Still not amazing. Like I think if you're in that deck, you've got, again, we're gonna shout out that number, like 8, 9, 10 creatures that trigger this thing. It's like okay, it's like a C minus, but I don't know.
There's a lot of ways to pump its power though.
Sure,
Like,
yeah, that's fair.
if they have to double block it, and then you can, because even the I mean, we're not a red yet, but there's the +3/+0 first strike thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be a coward and say C minus.
I'm gonna join you at a coward C minus there. Look, if we're wrong about this one, great. Very happy about it.
Yeah.
If it's better than it looks, great. I love me a 1-drop. Ooh, here's one maybe you like. Let's see. Toxic Analysis. Single black mana for an instant. Target creature gains death touch and lifelink until end of turn. Investigate.
It's toxin analysis.
Toxin.
Toxic analysis is what we do.
Yeah,
but this is
but
the
I'm
toxin analysis. Yeah.
Toxin Analysis. Yeah, this is like, I think this is really good. I don't know what you think,
Okay.
but
I know we're a little bit, we've been lengthy on this one, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have to spend your time on this one, because when I look at this card, I've seen so many people in your Discord talk up how amazing this card is,
mhm.
and I see something that's closer to Blade Brand than to what people seem to be calling it. So talk me up on it.
Okay, so yeah, basically, like, you're always going to, you have small creatures in black. You're always going to be winning the combat, or you're not dying in the combat. Death touch, lifelink. You're getting a little bit of life. Like, you like pairing a lifelink with drawing cards on the investigate. I just think it's so efficient. Like, there's going to be, imagine this. Okay, you play a turn 2-drop. You play a 3-drop, whatever. You play your creatures out, and then on turn 4 or something, you double spell with this and another disguise creature. Like, doesn't that seem just fantastic to you?
What's the, like, everything trades already anyways.
Yeah, so you're thinking, like, it's that could be a point against it. I agree with that. That if everything is just going to trade, everything's squarely statted. Yes, but I don't think that's always going to be the case, right? You're going to have some high toughness, low power, vice versa. Well, I mean, vice versa doesn't matter all that much. But having big things matters too. Like, just like having this trade for, they double block. Any double blocks make this card great because you're up a card there.
Yeah, and there is a lot of menace, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
good with
menace. Yeah, it's good with definitely good with suspect.
But even like the lifelink, it seems like lifelink is the thing I'm supposed to really care about,
Right?
Because the Blade Brand is 2 mana, do this, draw a card. This is 1 mana and 2 mana later, which is maybe better.
I think better.
Worse,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's better too, because you still get the tempo of casting a 1 mana trick, and then you get your card back later at some point when you just have the 2 mana to spend.
Sure, but if the lifelink is the selling point of this,
Yeah.
like, how much life am I gaining off of this? On, like, what am I targeting on average? It's the small thing where
Sure.
you want it to, like, trade up, right?
Right. But I think even like
So
getting
it's like 1 or 2 life.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. But I don't know. People really seem to like this card, and I'm just like, it's fine.
What would you give this one? You're gonna give it like a C-ish?
Yeah, I like C. Like, you could maybe talk me up to a C plus, but I wouldn't want to play like more than one of these, and I'm definitely nowhere in the B range. And the way people have talked about it, seems like people are trying to put it somewhere in like the top commons range, which is typically like at least a B minus, if not a B, and I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah, I will also say that I'm not as high as some people on it, but I was gonna put it in the B range. I was gonna give it a B minus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll see.
I'll give it just to be a point of contention here and have a different grade on us. I'll put it as a C, and I'll give you the B minus.
No, I like it. I like. Usually, our set reviews don't have too many disagreements, so it's nice when there is one that is kind of contentious. I mean, get a little toxic with each other. All right, we've got repeat offender over here. 1 in a black for a 2/1 human assassin. It's got an ability, 2 in a black. If repeat offender is suspected, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Otherwise, you suspect it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it just did the +1/+1 counters and like threat of activation, but having to pay the first 3 to give it menace, like a 5 mana 2/1 menace, really kills this thing.
Yeah, I guess the idea is like you suspect it with something else. Like this is a good thing to suspect, and then it kind of does its thing. But even still, like 3 mana at a pump is like that's a lot. You're not doing that till later. Like it's
Yeah.
the way it's statted as a 2/1 means like you're very rarely going to be able to attack and be like, oh, like you can't block a threat of activation. Like so much of the time, they're still just going to be able to block it.
And the point I want to make, that whole like something else will suspect it is just like that barely happens in this.
Right. Yeah. It's like we said, it's not a very prevalent mechanic.
Yeah. So I think this thing's pretty bad. I don't
Yeah.
think like if you're short on 2s, it's not unplayable. But I have this as like D to D plus.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a D plus as well. I could see it being a
Okay.
D. Yeah.
I'll join you on D plus.
All right, sounds good. What do we have next?
Next is Unscrupulous Agent. 1 in a black for a 1/1 elf detective. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent exiles a card from their hand.
Every single set now. Just like it's almost every single set. And it's never terrible. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's fine. Any reason to believe it's going to be better in this set than others?
The 1/1, there's not a lot of stuff with 1 toughness, so that's a knock against it. But there's also not a lot of 2 drops. And so if you just need something due to on 2/2, I don't think you're ever going to be unhappy with this. So I think this thing's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I in the the morph sets of Yor, I would think like, oh, okay, like people want to hit land 5, 6, 7, so them having to discard a land is still a cost, but you don't really have that dynamic going on as much here. So yeah, see,
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
See, sounds good.
Extract a Confession. 1 in a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, you can collect evidence 6. Each opponent attacks a creature, and if evidence was collected instead, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control.
Yeah, I actually quite like this card.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice modal. Like the modality on this actually works the way you want it to. Like that effect of they sacrifice their biggest thing is often pretty good. Better than it might read if you haven't played with it before.
And it's like there's not a ton of good 1-drops in this set.
Right, yeah, that's a great point too.
So playing it on turn 2, you're often going to get a 2-drop or maybe even their 3-drop.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this.
Ooh.
I'm going C+.
Yeah, I was going to go C+ too. Okay, cool. I was wondering if you're going to go to the D range.
Well, it's an edict.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's a cap on how good it can be.
We start like you're higher on it than you might be for any other edict because they're generally not great. Alley Assailant is up next. This is 2 in a black for a 3/3. Enters the battlefield tapped. It has disguise for 4 black, and when it's turned face up, target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life.
So that is a heck of a lot of mana to pay for a drain 3. 6 mana is a lot.
Ooh, but it doesn't enter tapped. That's a joke there, right? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's like these cards are 3 cards in 1, right?
Right.
Like it's a 3 mana 3/3 tapped. It's also a 3 mana 2/2 ward. So like if you really need to block, you can just play it as a 2/2 ward, and then it's also a 9 mana 3/3 drain 3. So I do think this is better than it looks.
Yeah, I don't think this card's that bad. Like,
okay.
It's a 3/3, so that we noted that's like pretty good stat lines. Of course, it doesn't come down and block the 2/2 right away. But I think you're not too sad about either one. Like, if this is your 3-drop, sure, you play it. Actually, no, that's a reasonable question. Because it's a 3-drop, how often are you playing it face down? How often are you playing it face up? I guess it just depends on the context of the game and like what you have to do with your mana later on. Is the main deciding factor?
I think the default will be to play it face up.
Yeah, I think so too.
on turn 3, like just to get good stats on it.
Yeah, I guess that's the way it plays, right? Where it's like if you have a better 3-drop to play, you're gonna play that, and then you don't mind playing this face down on turn 4 or 5 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like a C?
Yeah, I think just a solid C for Alley Assailants.
Okay.
All right, cool. What's next?
Next is Cerebral Confiscation. 2 and a black for a sorcery. You can either have an opponent discard 2 cards, or you can have them reveal their hand, and you can choose a card to discard from it. A non-land card.
Yeah, so it was only a matter of time until they made this this variant of Mind Rot, and I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think it's weird because I think most of the time it's like a sideboard card exclusively, not exclusively, but that second mode you're only gonna do post board because like you're not gonna randomly play 3 mana to look at their hand. You rather discard 2 cards, I would imagine. Unless you're like,
yeah, see, I do hate it.
You just hate it like straight. Yeah, no. Like I'm not saying you're gonna play this card in your main deck very often. I'm just saying like out of the sideboard against in a grindy matchup, it's not that bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was still gonna give it like a D-.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a sideboard grade, but
sure. Okay.
Murder. Straight murder. 1 black instant. Destroy target creature.
Yeah, never been that amazing, and now when most of the 3-drops have War 2, it's probably even worse.
Yeah, honestly.
And there's so many things that have value and like ETBs and flip value.
Yeah, it's too vanilla. It's too vanilla of a removal spell these days. Yeah, I think it's fine. Like it might come as a surprise to some people that were rating this low, but even back in Streets and Yucapena, when that set was out, that was 2 years ago at this point, that we still rate like Murder wasn't a great card. It was a solid one. It ended up being fine. I'm gonna give Murder a C+.
Yeah, like you're not gonna cut them, but you're also never gonna get them because everyone else at the table is gonna take them.
Yeah, people are gonna first pick this card all the time. Rot Farm Mortipede. 3 and a black for a 3/4. Whenever one or more creatures leaves your graveyard, Rot Farm Mortipede gets +1/+0 and gains Menace and Lifelink until end of turn. So we've got collecting evidence to leaving your graveyard that triggers this, but also a few cards in black to like buy things back from the graveyard. So that's what's going on with this one.
Yeah, so you need to trigger this for it to be in your deck.
Yep.
But once you do, you only really need to trigger it once.
Yeah, because gaining 4 is big. Like that's a lot of life.
Yeah, that's a big swing. A little Baneslayer Angel here.
It's so tempting. Like you can just imagine it. Like you imagine putting this card in your deck and it's doing the thing on turn 4 all the time. But it is pretty darn bad when you don't, right? So I think for good players, you're gonna know you have that threshold of 6, 7, 8, 9 ways to get exile something from your yard, closer to 8, I would say, than not. And I think it's gonna this card's probably gonna be a little bit worse on 17 lands than it ends up being for good players, because I think people are just gonna put it in their deck a little too often, too readily. So
like it's kind of similar to Trench Stalker, right?
Yeah, exactly. Trench Stalker is a good comparison from Brothers
And that
War.
card, I really like Trench Stalker.
Yeah, Trench Stalker was good. I think that one triggered a little bit easier than this one, but
yes. Do I want to give this like assuming that you're playing a bunch of ways to trigger it, like a C-?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say too. C- for the Rot Farm Mortipede. Macabre Reconstruction. 3 and a black for a sorcery. It costs 2 less to cast if a creature was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, and you return 2 creatures from your hand or from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, so again, if you're exiling your graveyard, then it's worse. If you're an aggro deck, it's worse. So like what deck is this for?
Right, like it fights the decks that you would ostensibly go in the first place. I do think this is like a pretty good version of this. Like it's not going to be that hard to cast it for 2 mana, right? You like something happens in combat, you mill something.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to trigger this to have it cost 2. Like you can mill something, you can cycle, you can trade in combat, you can have something a removal spell cast on it on your turn. There's a lot of ways to do it, but then you have to do it then. Like it's not like it costs 2 less for the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do think even with all the awkwardness going on, it's going to be okay. Like I think if you're a slower black deck, I'd give this like a C, but you might want to go a little lower potentially.
I'm thinking I'm lower. I was thinking like a D+. Like I think this is going to make very few of my decks.
Yeah, it also could just be the fact that like there's other card advantage things. You may not have to rely on this kind of like unreliable card advantage thing. So yeah, I'll go to C- on this one. I agree. It's probably a little bit lower than in most sets. Agency Coroner. 4 and a black for a 3/6. It's got the ability 2 and a black, sacrifice another creature, draw a card. If the sacrifice creature was suspected, you draw 2 instead.
I don't like. This is another one where I just don't get it. It's like, aren't you trying to be aggressive if you're suspecting things?
Yeah, I if you take the suspected thing off, I don't like I think that might throw you off a little bit. I actually don't hate the 5 mana 3/6 sack a thing, draw a card for 3 mana.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's that wall in DMU that could sack things, but I'd like this a lot better if it could sack itself. Too.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And that one didn't that one also like gain life or something too? Was that one, or maybe I'm thinking of a different one? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyways, yeah, this card.
I remember it's a 2/4. That's all I remember.
It's still a little bit
maybe,
of a clunker.
Maybe it did gain life. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with this thing. I think that there would be the odd deck where you play one of these once in a blue moon, so I'll give it like a D or D plus. I guess I'll give it a D, but I don't think I'm going any higher than that.
Yeah, I was gonna go D. Plays well with like the 1/1. Your opponent exiles something from their hand.
Okay.
All right, what's next? Another one that kind of looks like it's from Cons.
Yeah, Basilica Stalker, 5 and a black for a 3/4 flying vampire detective. When it deals combat damage to a player, you gain life and surveil 1, and you can disguise to have it flip up for 4 and a black.
I like it a little bit better than the Fenestrated Phantom, but really not that much
sure.
more.
it's I think 4/3 is a better stat line, or sorry, 4/3 is a worse stat line than 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
And this one has an ability that is relevant.
Well, it has an ability.
One.
Yeah, it has an ability.
Second ability, the flying's an ability.
True.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I would like the other one. I've just gave an F. This one I will play some number of them. I think that I'm going to give this a D plus.
D plus.
Like
yeah.
I like it more than the last card.
It's a detective too, for what it's worth. Like little in there. All right, I'll join a D plus. What do we have next?
Okay. Next is Slice from the Shadows. X and a black for an instant. This spell can't be countered, and target creature gets -X until end of turn.
Yeah, so it's okay. These cards they read a little bit better than they are, because you have to consider you're almost never trading up on mana a lot of the time.
These also get overdrafted.
Yes, definitely this card's going to be a little overdrafted. So like a D plus maybe, C minus.
Yeah, I had D plus sounds fair.
Yeah, sounds good. Fester Leech. Moving on to the uncommons now in black. Single black mana for a 1/1. When it deals combat damage to a player, you mill 2 cards, and it has the ability 1 in a black. Fester Leech gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only once per turn.
Yeah, I don't mind this thing.
No, this is one of the better 1-drops we've seen for sure. Yeah.
Normally with these like 1/1s that pump, like you attack and then they just like don't block until it's convenient for them, and it's like, okay, you take 1, like who cares? But milling 2 is an upside.
Yep, definitely. And this has it lines up nicely against the disguised creatures. Can be a 3/3 in combat. Yeah, everybody in chat's going banger alert on this one. I like it, but I don't think I would quite give it a banger necessarily. I think it's good. Like I'm going to mark it here. I'm going to give it a C plus.
C plus. Yeah, I was just going to give it a C.
Okay.
So
yeah.
We're kind of in the same range.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. Case of the Gorgon's Kiss. This is of course a case. Single black mana. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target creature that was dealt damage this turn. So not in love with that ability. To solve it, 3 or more creature cards were put into graveyards from anywhere this turn. And when you solve it, you get a 4/4... this case is a 4/4 Gorgon creature token with Death Touch and Lifelink, in addition to its other types.
Yeah, so it's... The dream scenario for this is somewhat easy to imagine, which I think tricks some people, because I'm not super high on this. So, like, there's a ton of menace in this set, and the ideal situation is, you attack with your menace creature, they double block, your menace creatures trade, menace creature trades with something, and then the other thing that you dealt leftover damage to gets killed by the Gorgon's Kiss. That satisfies the 3 creatures, and you're good to go. You get your 4/4 and flip it. But even that scenario, first of all, they need to block and hope you don't have any other tricks, right? So they might not even block in the first place. And then you also need your menace creature to have more power than the smallest one's toughness, because you need to have dealt damage to the second creature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just a matter of how often do you do the thing, because obviously the card is good. Like when you do the thing, it's good. But I totally agree. Like all the points you said, it is a little bit harder to get to what you want to do than it might look.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything on defense, right? Like it's sorcery speed for this type of ability. So even if your opponent's attacking and trading things and 3 things are going to go to the graveyard, well, is this thing even going to be on the battlefield when that happens?
I think it is pretty good. Like it makes your opponent's life pretty difficult. Like if this is just there on the battlefield, combat becomes complicated for them because they really don't want this to become a 4/4 death touch life.
But that's my point though. Like, are you getting this on the battlefield all the time? Like, let's say you attack with the plan to cast this turn and they don't block.
Right.
Are you just going to cast it to be able to, like, because you think you're going to solve it next turn?
I think there are spots where you will. Yeah, like I don't think it's like a given, but I think there are spots where you will, and that makes me like the card a little bit more than not.
Because the only way you're getting value from that first ability is if you are attacking or burning one of their creatures on your turn, and they block, right?
Well, it's also from anywhere, so like discarding, milling, cycling, like that. You can add that.
No, the first ability though.
Oh, sorry, just the first. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You know what? I guess my thought is 1 mana 4/4 lifelink death touch is so above rate that I don't even think the first ability matters that much. Like I think it's just a mini game to turn it on.
Okay.
That's how I'm seeing it, but
3 or more is a lot when we assume that creatures are going to be trading frequently in the early turns, though.
Well, is it though? Like, imagine you attack, they block, you like cycle something, you mill something, then you just play it.
Yeah, but if you attack and they block, like creatures, a removal spell.
We'll see. This is definitely gonna be an interesting one. Yeah.
Let's go to. I will write down my grade.
Okay.
And then I will let you give it a grade.
I'm going to give this one a C+. Because
after all,
yeah, we're gonna be
after
like
all that, we end up at the same grade.
Classic, so classic,
yeah.
and that's like that's a consistency C+, right? It's not the output of like, oh, it's not like obviously 1 mana 4/4 is good, but consistency wise, sometimes you're not gonna do the thing. That's how I'm approaching the grade.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see on this one. So one to note for sure. Lead Pipe, our black clue equipment, single black mana for a artifact clue equipment. The equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever the equipped creature dies, each opponent loses a life. Equip 2 and sack the Lead Pipe, draw a card.
Yeah, I don't like this one at all.
Nope, this one's just kind of junky.
Like a D-.
D-, yep. Moving on. Okay. Leering Onlooker. 1 and a black for a 1/3 flyer. 2 black, exile Leering Onlooker from your graveyard. Create 2 tapped 1/1 bat creature tokens with flying. Oh, yeah. This is a nice one.
Yeah, this card's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Just very good. Just nothing to hate about it.
Yeah, you can mill it, you can surveil it away,
Great.
You can loot it, you can trade with it. It's a 2-drop. It's great, does everything.
Yeah, B or B+. That's kind of the only question.
I think I'll give it a B.
Okay, yeah, I will join you there too. Okay. Long Goodbye. 1 and a black for an instant. This spell cannot be countered. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less.
Yeah, so you do got to be careful with this because if you target a disguised creature and they flip it up and it has a mana value of 4 or more, this will be countered. Well, I mean, fizzled, but it will be countered even though it says it can't be countered.
Yeah, but I think just like setting up either like 2 scenarios that are great here. 1, you're on the draw and you just cast, they play a 3-drop and you just kill it.
Yep.
That's great. Or on turn 4, you double spell with this, kill their disguised creature or their 2-drop or their 3-drop, play a 2-drop. Both are great. So
yep. Or they go for, like, there's a whole bunch of tricks people will go for.
Yep.
It's not a lot of mana to leave up.
Really good.
I think this card's quite good.
A B?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm with you there.
Great. Presume Dead. 1 black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains, when this creature dies, return to the battlefield under its owner's control, and then you suspect it.
Oh, I thought this thing was a common for the longest time. It's an uncommon. Okay. Yeah, another thing that boosts power, not toughness. Another thing that's pretty good with menace, like suspected. And of course, the dream is you have your 6/7 reach huge monster that's been disguised, and this unveils the disguise. That
Ah.
turns out it was a Hellion. Who knew
Yeah.
it all along?
I thought it was dead. That Hellion,
Yeah.
that random Hellion. The news said it was
Yeah.
dead. Yeah. So it's these effects kind of like waver from being like pretty good to pretty medium. Do you think that the suspect or the context is just being the disguise that pushes us to being just pretty solid overall?
Yeah, I think this thing's fine. Like we've seen 2 mana is fair. We've seen 2 mana with like a bit more upside than this. Like suspecting it is not great upside, but
Mhm.
I think this thing's decent.
Yeah, decent is what I would say too. Like a C.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go C.
great.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have now?
Next we have Clandestine Meddler, 2 and a black for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, suspect up to one other creature you control. When one or more suspected creatures you control attack, surveil one.
Yeah, so one other. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting that they really like made it specific for like a lot. You say one other or only this creature gets suspected. Like we're a little bit down on these cards already. So you play a 2, and there's not a lot of aggressive black 2s. So really, like this is like a red black card, or a whatever black aggro card, and that gets menace, and then you surveil one. Yeah, it's not bad. It's okay. Yeah, it reads a little more like a common to me, but
Like if you play this and you have a 2-drop, I think it's really good.
okay.
Maybe you and I are a bit apart on this one because making your 2-drop basically you're getting at least 2 surveils, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like because they can't block your 2-drop because it's got menace.
Unless they have a novice inspector, which is just like another notch in novice inspector's belt. Yeah, I think I don't dislike the card or anything. I'm gonna give it a C plus. Are you same range or?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable
Okay,
to me.
cool. C plus for Clandestine Meddler. Night Drinker Moroi. It's been 20 years since we've seen the Moroi. Back again, 3 and a black for a 4/2. It's got flying. When it ETBs, you lose 3 life, but has disguise for black.
3 life is a lot
It's a
of life
lot
to
of life.
spot your opponent.
And
Oh yeah.
it's not even like above rate, really. Like a little bit, I suppose. Like you don't just get 4 2 flyers, but like 3 2 flyers you do get.
Yeah, and it dies to shock, and
Yeah.
I mean it kills people pretty quickly, but that includes you.
Yeah, so like you play this on 3, flip it up, attack for 4, play another 2. Yeah, I don't think this card is great.
No, I don't believe so either.
No.
I want to give this like D.
D. Yeah, I was gonna go D too.
Okay.
All right. Definitely not as good as the original Moroi. That card was a banger.
Mhm.
Slimy Dual Leech. This is 3 and a black for a 2/4. The beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control with power 2 or less gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch.
Yeah, so I saw Ben and Ethan comparing these last 2 cards
Yeah.
on Twitter and the poll, and I'm definitely on Team Leech.
Me
Like I
too.
think this card's really good.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I don't
crazy.
even think it's close.
No, I really like this card. And of course, you can give it to
Okay.
itself if you have nothing else. But just coming down, making your 3-drop or your 2-drop harder to block. Yeah, like it.
Like especially if you have something that's suspected.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Giving
yeah.
that
It's really
thing
nice.
Death Touch. Oh my god! Like you just make blocks a nightmare. This is kind of like Combat Professor, right?
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Definitely a little bit worse, but not that far off. Yeah, maybe C plus for Slimy Dual Leech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like C plus for
Alright,
this.
cool. Soul Enervation. 3 and a black for an enchantment. Flash. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. Whenever one or more creatures leave your graveyard, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life.
Yeah, so kind of minor. Like you're not going to trigger that second ability a ton. Maybe 2 or 3
once or
times at
twice,
most.
yeah.
But -4/-4, flash 4 mana is already solid.
Yeah, if you just did like, kill a creature, gain 2 life, or kill a creature, drain your opponent for 2, that'd be pretty good.
I want to give this like C plus.
Yeah, another C plus. Sweet.
Okay.
All right, what do we have next? Oh, I gave you a good one to read here.
Undercity Eliminator, 3 black for a 3/3 Gorgon Assassin. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice an artifact or creature. When you do, exile target creature an opponent controls.
Yeah, card's great. Just fantastic, right? Just sack
Yeah.
a clue, sack a little 1/1. Comes in like the body is not massive by any means, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah, this card's a banger.
I mean, it is still a bone splitter,
It
so you know how I
is.
feel about bone
I do.
splinters.
I do. You want
But
to give it a
they have the possibility of being very good. Like we've seen very good versions of this before, and I think this is one of the better ones.
yeah. I will land B on it, but I could see B plus.
Oh, you're going that high. I wasn't gonna go that high.
Okay.
I will go B minus.
Oh, also, yeah, chat points out something good to know. Worst case scenario, you can sack this thing to itself. Not that that's great, but yeah.
Yes. 5 mana, exile target creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. 3 black for an instant. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Suspect it.
We already talked about this. I don't think there's going to be much stuff in your graveyard. You have tension with it. Like this thing can't block. I don't really get why this is an instant.
Yeah, why isn't it
for 5
instant?
mana.
That part doesn't add up to me, right? Like, just like, what's this card trying to do? Yeah, I don't think this card's very good at all. Oh, yeah.
No.
No.
Like a B minus.
Yeah, not a card I think you're looking for.
Okay.
Polygraph Orb, 3 and a black for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 into your hand, the rest into the graveyard. You lose 2 life. It's also got an ability to untap it, collect evidence 3. Each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card or sacrifice a creature.
I really want this card to be good.
I know.
It's like cool, but like it either needs not to have the 2 life or like shave off a mana or something. Like it's not, or like have the ability at the bottom cost 1. There's so many ways you could tweak this.
I know.
I think it's pretty bad as is.
There's so many little things, like almost like everything, like the mana cost, that first ability, the second ability. I'm just like, yeah, no, I totally agree.
Life loss.
I think it's probably just an F, honestly.
Oh, dagger to my heart.
I know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a
No,
cool
I think you're
card.
right. Yeah.
Persuasive Investigators. This is 4 black for a 4/5 detective. Or 5/6 detective. I didn't get any of those numbers right. Let's try that again.
It's also an interrogators, not investigators.
We're at that point in the set review.
Start again. Yeah.
Persuasive Interrogators. 4 black for a 5/6 detective. When it enters the battlefield, you investigate. And here's something weird. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. And of course, if you have 10 poison counters, you lose the game.
Yeah, so it would be interesting if there was like really cheap, because you don't actually need to sacrifice the clues to draw cards.
Right.
You can sacrifice them in any way.
Yep.
But there's not a lot of ways to just like stack up a bunch of these and then sacrifice them all. So I'm skeptical of that text being relevant unless you can like really grind out the game, and I think that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, and I don't hate 6 mana 5/6 investigate. Like,
no,
that's not bad.
But but I just don't think, like, don't start going for that unless you're second ability, unless you're sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. We got Deathsea in the chat here, by the way, being like, I love this card, and yeah, it seems like a very Deathsea card.
Yeah, just win, he says.
Yeah, just win.
Okay.
What do you want to give this one?
Like C minus.
Yeah, I was gonna go C. I think like the baseline of just like 6 mana 5/6 investigate ain't that bad, but
Okay.
yeah. All right, and that's black. So I don't think we were that impressed with black, are we?
No, black's a little all over the place. Not a lot of, you mentioned kind of a lack of good 2-drops is a major point against it. And even the uncommons, there's nothing like amazing. So I don't think black's terrible, but it just seems like there's 2 tiers of colors. Like there's white and red, and then there's everything else.
Yeah, and the black. So generally with black, the problem is like its creatures aren't good, but it makes up for it in the fact that its spells are pretty good. And the common black removal spells we weren't like over the moon about. Like there's murder, but there's also like the X and the black one that we didn't love. So
yeah, there's the 2 mana uncounterable one is
that's good. Yeah. Okay, well we'll see.
I agree with you. There's not a lot of black like we haven't looked at the rares yet, but these cards, there's not a lot of them that I'd want to first pick.
Yeah, hopefully the rares are really good, because it's always nice to balance out a slightly weaker color.